So I have been asked three basic questions about the Diddy case. Number one, did the jury get it right? Number two, what does the sentencing process look like from here forward? And number three, what sentence is he likely going to get? Let's unpack it all. In terms of the jury getting it right, the answer is absolutely they got it right. And if you think I'm saying it after the fact, go back and look at some of my other material on this particular case. RICO was way overcharged. It's a racketeering charge. Racketeering, Influence, Corrupt Organization Act. It was designed for mob bosses. It was designed to have a big kingpin and his underbosses who were doing all of these things, terrorizing the community. Whether you're killing people, shaking down businesses, doing other things. And what happens in those cases? Usually, multiple defendants that are those who are accused are on trial. And then you get what's called a rat who comes in and testifies and says, my boss said that I should do this. My boss said to put on a hit. My boss said I should shake down the business. You have somebody else in the organization who comes in and testifies. Here, you had Diddy. Was there anybody else that you saw sitting with him as a defendant? No. Well, yes, you can have unindicted co-conspirators. Those are people who the government in its discretion decides not to prosecute. But it's only Diddy? Really? That was the first problem. The second problem is there were people in his organization. Not only did they not testify, those people who were supposed to be engaging in these racketeering activities, arson, drugs, beatings, obstruction of justice, bribery, but you had others who testified, right? And those people who testified said that they were kind of fond of him, right? But it was a complicated situation, so you didn't have that component. So epic fail as it related to RICO. Sex trafficking. Now, to be clear, no is no. Of course it is. And when a woman says there's not consent, there is no consent. But is this the way we look at sex trafficking? Is we look at sex trafficking from the perspective of you're in an 11-year relationship and you're sex trafficking someone? You're in a 3-4 year relationship and you're sex trafficking them? It was very complicated because there were instances in which they were engaged, that is, the women that Diddy was involved with, that is, Cassie and of course Jane, and there were suggestions that they were all on board and wanting to do it. And yes, it was complicated. There were situations in which they didn't. I think a jury concluded, you know what, we got to give them the benefit of the doubt. These are long-term relationships. There's suggestions that they were all on board with it and it was all good. So as to the issue now of the Mann Act, what is the Mann Act? Everybody's talking about it now. Those are the charges for which he was convicted. That is the transportation to engage in prostitution. The Mann Act is a statute, a law, that is about 115 years old. And it's designed for purposes of crossing state lines, interstate commerce, to engage in prostitution. And yes, you could argue that he did that, right? There were multiple escorts, dozens in fact, right, who they had records of with respect to engaging in these freak-offs or hotel nights, whatever you want to see. They had the hotel records. They had all types of information with respect to the flights. And so that was a proper and appropriate charge for which he was convicted. The government clearly overextended themselves. They overreached, and they really wanted to get him so badly. So what this means for him is all of that really forfeiture things with taking all of his money, bringing him down, that just ain't going to happen now moving forward. So yes, the answer to the question is the jury got it right. Now, in terms of the next step, what does the sentencing look like? There's a process. We know there was a meeting to talk about scheduling, and it looks like sentencing will be in October. Prior to the sentencing, here's what goes on. You have a PSR, pre-sentencing report that's written. What is that? It's a report that includes a full write-up of who Diddy is, what his life is, how many brothers and sisters he has, what kind of family he has, where he grew up, what he was doing, any type of problems he has with regard to violence or drugs or this or that. Full workup, his business, his empire, how he ran it, when he created it. That's huge. In addition to that, it'll include any criminal history that he had, which appears to be none. It'll include victim impact statements. It'll include all types of things about his background and, of course, the nature of the offense. And then there'll be a recommendation that's made by probation with regard to his time. Thereafter, right, there will be sentencing submissions. The prosecution will submit its sentencing memorandum. It looks like they're asking for about 5 years. Federally, you do things by months, right? And, of course, The defense is saying that it's more along the lines of 2 years. Now, when I say along the lines of, very briefly, there are these things called the federal sentencing guidelines. And federal sentencing guidelines in the federal system have two things. Number one, the offense level, and number two, they have the criminal history. And you look at the offense level, you look at the criminal history, you get a specific numerical number, and that's the number that calculates whether it's 2 years or 5 years. Not surprisingly, and why do they do that? They do that because you want uniformity in sentencing. You don't want people who are convicted of the same offense to get grossly disparate and different types of sentences. And so with these sentencing guidelines, they're not mandatory, they're discretionary, but generally the judge follows them. Not surprisingly, you have prosecutors that are here, 5 years, and you have the defense that's here. Why is that? Because the manner in which you calculate those sentencing guidelines is a subject of debate. There's something called relevant conduct that could be considered. That's bad things that Diddy has done in his life and prior things that have come up during the course of the trial and who he is and his violence. And prosecutors are saying, Judge, consider it, consider it. Defense is saying, this is what the case is about. It's not about all this conduct. It's about what he was convicted of. Let's keep it there. And so it comes to the last point of what he will get. I'm thinking defense wants about 2 years. Prosecutors want 5 years. He'll split the baby, that is the judge, probably giving him around 3. And that means that when he goes to be sentenced in October, he will not yet be released. He'll have to do more time, which leads to the final conclusion, and that is they were asking, and people have asked, well, why didn't the judge just let him out? Why didn't he give him bail? Right? The judge could have given him bail, but if the judge is thinking, you know what, I'm going to give him additional time, somewhere around 3 years, why not leave him in? Because he's not then going to come out just to go back in. And so that is the entirety of the story as it relates to Diddy. That's my perspective on those 3 issues with regard to whether the jury got it right. Yes, they did. With regard to the process for sentencing, I explained that to you. And with regard to the issue of how much time he'll get, I'm thinking it's going to land about 3 years. And that is it in a nutshell. See you on YouTube and or Substack for more. May the Lord be with you.